Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, we're here at ITV. My name is Imam Abdul Baqi. I was formerly the chairman of the Justice Committee for Islamic Leadership Council, and currently I am a member of the Southeast Queens Muslim Collective. I'm also a da'i ilallah, one who is invited to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so some of this information, inshallah ta'ala, is a collection of all the books and materials that I have read. So therefore, when you hear a khutbah or when you hear a talim session such as this, you're getting the gist of what I have accumulated over the many years of my life. And by the mercy of Allah, I have been Muslim 50 years. And as such, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, I have studied extensively before to assess what is Islam, because I was not interested in finding a new religion. You know, the African Americans used to sing a song that says, "Give me that old time religion, give me that old time religion, it's good enough for me." They were not talking about the religion of the slave master. They were talking about the religion in which they were perpendicular to the ground in control of their lives and their destiny. And that is summed up as Al-Islam today. So when the Muslims went across northern Africa, they came in contact with the Berbers. The Berbers resisted somewhat because of the fact that they had many thousands of years of history in this particular region. They were also part of ancient Carthage. Ancient Carthage was, for your benefit, historical information, ancient Carthage was a kingdom in northern Africa, which we call the Maghreb today, and it was Hannibal who took camels and introduced camels into Europe, crossing the Alps, and almost destroyed and sacked Rome, you know, but he was driven back, and his brother was captured, and he was not doing his job. You know, he was captured, and as a result of that, he had to flee back into North Africa, and he was killed in the Battle of Zuma, and then subsequently from that time up until the time of the advent of Islam, the Romans had occupied and controlled the world. So when Islam coming into Africa, it had to overthrow the Romans and establish justice, an Islamic way of life. As they would say to the disbelievers like Ubaidah bin Samit, when he came into Egypt, he said, we come, you know, and we offer you three alternatives. Either you accept Islam and you will be saved, or you have no other recourse after that except to fight us. And if you fight us, you know, then you would become kafir dhimmi. Or you can be, you know, become brothers to us in the form of faith. And we know historically that Ubaidah bin Samit was I guess you could say African Arabian, in the sense that he was a dark-skinned man, and many people tend to just include him within Arab history, with the exclusion and knowing the fact that Arabs themselves, you know, considered themselves red. This is why the Prophet ﷺ said in the famous hadith, "I have become not except to the blacks and to the reds." You know, and the irony about that, and I got mad with one brother who was selling books, is that he had a book from Lebanon, and it said, I have been sent to the blacks and the whites. He didn't say that. He said, I sent to the blacks and to the reds. And everybody other than black will be considered red. You know, so that is the inclusion. But that's a story in and of itself. So Islam went into Africa. It was a process of centralization and acculturation. Islam was taken into Europe in 711. As I said before, it developed civilizations over and over again. Under Abdul Rahman, you had Muslim Caliphate inside of Europe, and this lasted for 750 years. Then Islam moved across northern Africa, not being able to go down into the sub-Sahara. And the reason I mention that is because the sub-Sahara provided a natural barrier between invasion from the north, as well as the Atlantic Ocean provided natural, a barrier, for anybody coming by sea, because most of the Africans lived inland. You had the developing states in Hausa, you had developing states in Nigeria, the Igbo, the Yoruba, on the East Coast, Swahili, Zanzibar. You know, you had what you call the East African trade. And then you also had, alhamdulillah, Ghana, Sangha, Mali. In the middle, you had two city-states, Kano Bono. And then, further down, you had, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and all these other areas which were synthesizing and coming in contact with Islam through primarily trade. And it should be mentioned that it was not an army which invaded Africa to force the Africans to become Muslim, but it was primarily through the process of trade. Through the process of trade, you had many of those merchants who were Tasawwuf, Sufis. And their objective was to give mankind the understanding about the wonders of Allah, to establish prayer and to invite people to the 5 pillars of Islam. Buni al-Islam ala khamsin shahadatu an la ilaha illallah wa Muhammadur Rasulullah wa qamat as-salat wa ta'i zakat wa hajji wa sama Ramadan. This became the foundation. And the basis of all this is the Quranic teachings. So we see that in Ghana, they established trade with the Muslims, and the Muslims began to synthesize the Islamic practice through their character. This is why adab and akhlaq is so important. Their character is what manifests good to the people, and people, when you do good, when you act good, people want to emulate you. They want to be like you. They want to be near you. And some people, alhamdulillah, they would accept Islam because Islam would liberate them from their circumstances, as it was in India. In India, you had many type of the Hindus, you had you had the Sikhs, but it was the Muslims who kept India as a political entity very strong and very vibrant. You had many sultans and so on and so forth, and they in turn, began to establish Islam, influence Indian law. And then, of course, we know the subsequent development. After that, you had Pakistan, you had Bangladesh, you had Muslims in Myanmar, which at that time was called Burma. And we got political problems today. I'm not going to hop upon those political problems, but I want you to be aware that a lot of it has to do with Islam, because, when the British came into India or Indostan, the British totally did whatever they could to empower the Hindus, to put the Hindus in power. They made them part of the army, the administration, of the affairs and so on and so forth. So after colonization, you know, the Hindus became the topmost people in India, and they set up the Brahmin, the Vishnu, and you know, system. And of course, you know, the bottom people, the Dalits, they became the untouchables. And I'm going to wind it up at this present time because I, you know, want to move into Africa, and then we're going to go into slavery in America. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barak wa salam. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah azim. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa ala sunnati Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.